Hi everyone, and welcome to the AI Research Roundup. I'm your host Alex, and today we're diving into some fascinating work on automated scientific discovery. We're looking at a paper titled, The AI Scientist V2, Workshop-Level Automated Scientific Discovery via Agentic Tree Search. Essentially, the researchers have built an AI system called the AI Scientist version 2 that can pretty much do the whole scientific process by itself. It formulates hypotheses, runs experiments, analyzes data, and even writes up the paper. What's really striking is that this system produced a paper entirely on its own that was accepted at a peer-reviewed workshop. That's quite a milestone. It also improves on the previous version by not needing human-written code templates anymore. Pretty cool stuff. So, looking at this table, it really lays out the key differences between the first version and this new AI Scientist version 2. You can see how V2 steps things up significantly. While version 1 was more topic-specific and planned experiments linearly, version 2 is designed to be domain general. It uses a more sophisticated tree-based planning approach for experiments and can even run them in parallel. Plus, it incorporates a VLM. That's a vision language model to review figures, which V1 didn't do. And of course, the big outcome. V2 produced results worthy of workshop acceptance. So this figure really breaks down that V2 workflow we were just talking about. You can see the three main stages clearly laid out. Idea generation on the left, then the tree-based experimentation in the middle, and finally the paper write-up on the right. The idea generation uses LLMs and checks novelty with tools like Semantic Scholar. Then the experimentation part visually shows that tree-based approach across 4 stages, like preliminary investigation and hyperparameter tuning, selecting the best performing node or experiment to build on. And then the write-up phase includes plotting, and importantly, that VLM feedback loop for refining figures before the final LLM review. Okay, so building on that overall workflow we just saw, this figure dives deeper into that middle part, the tree-based experimentation. You can really see those 4 stages laid out visually here: preliminary investigation, hyperparameter tuning, research agenda execution, and ablation studies. What's new here is how it shows the different types of nodes in the tree, like the buggy ones in red that need debugging, and the non-buggy ones that can be refined. You also see specific nodes for things like hyperparameter tuning or ablation studies, and even replication and aggregation nodes for robustness. And it visually confirms how the best node from one stage seeds the start of the next. Okay, so after going through that whole agentic tree search and the automated write-up process we just discussed, this figure here actually shows the end result. This is the paper written entirely by the AI Scientist version 2 that got accepted for peer review at that ICBINB workshop. You can see it looks like a standard research paper. It investigated compositional regularization in sequence models. And yeah, it achieved review scores good enough for acceptance, ranking in the top 45% of papers submitted to that workshop. Pretty remarkable outcome from the system. So, building on that accepted paper we just looked at, this figure actually shows the starting point for that specific research effort. This is the initial idea and the experimental plan that the AI Scientist V2 generated before running all those experiments we saw in the tree search. You can see the proposed title, Enhancing Compositional Generalization, and the short hypothesis about using compositional regularization. It also lists out the specific experiments the AI planned to conduct, like implementing the term, training on specific data sets, analyzing representations, and even doing ablation studies. This was basically the blueprint for that successful paper. Right, so following on from that initial plan the AI generated, this figure actually shows feedback from one of the human reviewers. Reviewer number 1, on the final paper that the AI produced, you can see their summary of the work, and then they list specific strengths and weaknesses. For instance, they found the core idea interesting and liked the ablation studies, but felt it needed more justification, and pointed out only LSTMs were tested, suggesting transformers might be interesting too. Overall, though, they concluded they would accept the paper for the workshop. Okay, so going further with the feedback from Reviewer 1 we just discussed, This figure actually shows their final rating. They gave it a 7 out of 10, calling it a good paper and recommending acceptance, with a confidence score of 4. What's new here is that we also see the full review from reviewer number 2. They also recommended acceptance, though with a slightly lower score of 6, calling it marginally above the threshold. Reviewer 2 thought the paper fit the workshop well and was a good example of research challenges, even though the AI's proposed method didn't actually improve things. They did suggest broadening the experiments, though. So, bringing all that reviewer feedback together, it really highlights the whole journey of the AI Scientist version 2. The big takeaway here isn't just about whether the specific method worked perfectly, but that the AI could autonomously navigate the entire research process, from planning and experimentation right through to getting a paper accepted at a workshop. Well, this kind of automated research capability really points towards how AI might accelerate scientific discovery down the line. That's all for this episode. Thanks for tuning in to the AI Research Roundup. I'm your host, Alex.